You bet it is, son. This is a man's world. But it ain't nothing without a woman or a girl.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Man Cave. If he's masculine, if he is a man, and if he's male, this is the show. So invite as many people as you can and tell them right now that Kenneth Mulificini is live. And I mean, obviously, today is going to be quite an interesting, episode. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to be refreshing. It's going to be empowering. It's going to even give you strategies. It's going to give you some sort of principles to work with. So, look, it's a very imperative one. It's a very important one. I think the fact that I'm here today and I'm doing what I'm doing for all these years is because of managing relationships. So we are talking about discerning relationships, how to manage and categorize relationships. I think we have a really important subject at hand here because a lot of people have experienced hurt, have experienced exploitation, have experienced disappointment by people they have relationships with. And sometimes it is because of expectations. And when expectations are not defined, when expectations are not refined, and when there is no open kind of communication, you don't know what to expect, you don't know what to give, you don't know what to receive. And consequently, you get hurt, you get disappointed. And when you talk about marriage, for instance, people get married with expectations. And some people, get married because they know what they can give. Some people go into relationships knowing exactly what they can give to the person they want to have a relationship with. And it's important, you know. Sometimes you have to know who's who in your life if you are going to be happy, if you're going to protect your heart. And we know that hurt is inevitable. You cannot really avoid hurt, but you can manage your relationship better. And then discernment becomes key because when you're talking about relationships, you're discerning the substance thereof, you're discerning the category thereof, you're discerning even the personality you have a relationship with. Because it takes time to get to know people, because people open up like a flower. The test of time has to be in place, the test of focus has to be in place, the test of singularity has to be in place, the test of knowledge, the test of security. So relationships are really complex. So I thought that I should, have a spontaneous one. So I invited, uh, you know, Sivinati Johnson today to be with me. And I know it's going to change your life because he did not even know that we're going to have this. I just invited him to the office after a message I got from him. And then I said, come through. And he thought we're gonna be having some private conversation, and now he is on set, and, and that's what happens, That's what happens. So it's actually a test. I want to see what do you do when you're under pressure, when you're not prepared, and when you're put in a very uncomfortable space, and it's going to be amazing. It's a spontaneous one. I wanted it to be Facebook. I wanted it to be natural. I don't want to have an artificial kind of conversations. And preachers, when they're prepared, they have all kinds of lines and all kinds of quotes and all kinds of grammatical, expressions and all of that. So I wanted to really have an honest, open heart conversation. So get ready. Get ready. Invite as many people as you can. This episode you will find on Kenneth Mulefe Senior on YouTube. It's called Grace Life with Kenneth Mulefe Senior. Make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, and all of our ManCave episodes will be found there. All our ministry episodes will be found there. All of our teachings, our Wednesday teachings, will be found there. It's going to change your life. So get ready. Welcome to Man Cave. It's a man's world. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Even though you placed me under track, so I wasn't prepared. Honestly, I
Yeah.
wasn't prepared. But thank you so much for having me.
No, some welcome. You see, honest conversations are conversations you're not really prepared for.
Yeah.
You know. So I thought, listen, instead of talking about relationships alone, I'd rather have you.
Yeah.
So that we talk about, what we need to talk about privately, but, have some sort of an idea where your mind is and where I stand as well.
Yes.
All right. So I want you to read a couple of scriptures and let's see if we cannot flow from there. All right.
Awesome.
So first of all, let's read John 14. John 14, verse number 21. And let's see what we get out of there. John 14, verse number 27, the New International Version, and you have the King James, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's John 14.
Yeah.
27.
Mm-hmm.
Peace I leave with you.
Yeah.
My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth.
Gives you. Yeah.
I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither be afraid.
Yeah. So he says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give you.
Yeah.
I do not give you as the world gives you. So if you notice that he talks about peace I give you, that's shalom, okay?
Yeah.
And then he talks about my peace. So now the peace is personal.
Yeah.
So we know he's talking about the peace that he has in relationship with God. If you look at the entire context, you realize that the peace he's talking about there is in lieu to the relationship he has with the Father.
Wow.
So I give you that kind of peace.
Wow.
In other words, looking at the relationship I have with the Father, I'm giving you that peace.
Wow.
So your peace is on the premise, is on the foundation of the relationship that I already have with the Father.
Wow.
And this is why the ministry of reconciliation really belongs to Jesus, because he's the one that is in right standing with God. Before we all, were part of this God's family, before we were adopted into the family, he had that relationship with the Father. And hence, the Bible talks about how the Word was with God in the beginning. That word "with" speaks to the relationship that he has with the Father, co-existent with the Father, co-eternal with the Father, co in majesty with the Father, and all of that. They are so one with the Father that Jesus is the very God of the very God. So again, you will notice that when he then talks about peace, he says, I leave you with this kind of peace. My peace I give you. So out of the relationship I have, I'm now making you a partaker of that peace.
Wow.
I'm making you a partaker of that peace. But that peace is on the premise of the relationship I have with the Father. So I'm going to then open a door for you to step into this peace. But this peace only comes with the peace that I already have with the Father.
Amen.
So you're now going to join the family not as an adopted child, but you're going to now join the family as if you belonged to the family in the first place.
Amen.
You get what I'm saying? Okay. Now, let's leave that one. So this is the relationship between Jesus and the Father, and as a result of that, we now have the peace because of that relationship. Let's read it, Matthew 17. Matthew 17, and let's read from verse number 1 until verse number 3. Let's see. Okay.
Matthew 17 from verse 1. After 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John his brother, and bringeth them up into a high mountain apart, too, and was transfigured before them, and his face shined as a sun, and raiment was white as a light. 3. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias, talking with him.
Talking with Jesus.
Yes.
All right. Now that's okay. Now notice something here. All right. After 6 days, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, the brother of James, and led up high by the mountain themselves. Now notice something here. He has 12 disciples.
Yeah.
But then out of the 12, he takes the three.
Wow.
And then he leads them up the mountain. And the issue here is this: transfiguration is a manifestation of Jesus as God on earth.
Wow.
So this is not the incarnate Christ alone. It is a manifestation of his deity.
Wow.
It's an open manifestation of who he is, of his true identity. Because you must understand, he is God.
Wow.
So now he takes them up the mountain to expose them to his very identity.
Wow.
All right. Now, I want you to notice how the Bible puts it in the NIV, because that's very key. He says what he says, and led them a high mountain. When you look at that in the original Greek, it does not mean that they climbed the mountain. It literally means he elevated them to a place where they can be exposed to who he is.
Wow.
He led them to a place where not everybody can be taken there for his identity to be revealed to. Because when you talk about Jesus and relationships that he had with people, you have what is called a hypostatic union. It is a contrasting temperaments between his divinity and his humanity. The fact that he is God and the fact that he is human. And that's why when he talks and deals with the parables, he says, well, the mysteries of God was revealed unto, us, and not unto them.
Yeah.
It is for you to know the mysteries of the kingdom and not unto them. So there is the them and the us.
Wow.
So throughout the scripture, when you look at Jesus and the relationships he had with other people, he always categorized relationships.
Wow. Wow.
To the point that you will notice that Judas is not even close to being taken up the mountain to experience the transfiguration, because Jesus already knew who Judas was. So categorizing relationships is very key. And that's why you cannot take or elevate somebody to a stage in a relationship they have not grown into. Because when you take somebody into an expectation that they were not built to bring, you get hurt.
Yeah.
Oh, please, you got to hear me loud and clear. You understand what I'm saying? And,
wow.
and when you look at this, you will notice that the peace that Jesus is talking about here, if you notice, in John, you will realize something very pivotal. You will realize that he says, peace I live with you, my peace I give you. Remember, the context is relationship. So you don't talk about the peace if you don't address the relationship.
Yeah.
Because the peace is on the premise of the relationship.
Yeah.
So he says, peace I live with you. And the peace he's talking about is on the context of relationship. He says, so I will give you peace. And I live peace with you by righting your relationships.
Wow.
By getting your relationships in order. My peace I give. So he gets the relationship in place, and the peace is released out of that relationship. So the only peace that you're going to get out of this is if you get your relationships in order. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you got to hear me loud and clear. You cannot have peace if you don't have your relationships in order.
Wow.
If you don't have boundaries, if you don't have categories, if you don't discern relationships, you will always get hurt. You understand? Yeah. And that's why when you look at John Mack, one of the preachers who was on a missionary journey with Paul, because he had not grown to understand the depth and the sensitivity of Paul's apostolic ministry, he dropped Paul.
Wow.
He was not very faithful to the assignment upon the life of Paul, and consequently, Paul was hurt because of that, to a point where somebody else, Barnabas, had to negotiate the relationship and say, are you going to take him this time? Paul says, oh, no, I'm not doing that. That's not the kind of a person that I need in my team because of the assignment that's on my life.
Wow.
And when you talk about ministry relationships, there are personal people and there are ministry people. There are people who are committed to you as a person, and there are people who are committed to your ministry.
Yes.
So they will not necessarily give into your life, but they will give into your ministry.
Yeah.
So don't make your domestic issues their issues.
Jesus.
Because they're not committed to you, they're committed to your ministry. And you are not the ministry.
Wow.
You are the one ministering.
Mm.
You're gonna hear me loud and clear. All right, can we go deeper? Okay, so the 5 stages that I looked at into the life of Jesus, and I noticed very, very closely. Right, 5 stages of relationship. Number 1 is the encounter. The encounter stage of the relationship is very key, because that's when you get exposed to somebody's ministry.
Yeah.
That's when you get exposed to the gift.
Yeah.
It is the gift that attracts you to the individual.
Yes.
It's the grace that attracts you to the individual. I mean, some of the mentors I have in business is because of what they have accomplished.
Yeah.
You know, you look at people like Mr. K in Santon, Neville Kambasha, you look at him as an individual. Man, I don't know anybody who knows how to be a chairman like he. He is a personification of what a chairman is. The man knows how to chair all kinds of CEOs and corporations, different boards and different entities. He knows how to encourage anybody and everybody. And sometimes he will encourage them and put them in the place where they believe this is it.
Yeah.
And yet he is not so excited about what he's talking about. I don't know anybody who knows. So I know what I want out of him.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, I've accepted it. And you talk about people who are also great mentors. And you talk about Quentin, for instance. You look at him as an individual and how he's able to run everything globally. And yet he's in one office. Take one phone call and change the economy of a particular country and how it's structured on one phone call, talking to group CEOs in that particular, man, that's a dimension.
Jesus.
You understand? That's not a level, that's a proper dimension. So you get attracted to people because of their giftedness and because of what's on them.
Yeah.
You know, that's the encounter stage of the relationship. Now the trick is this.
Yeah.
You love the gift, but then sometimes you will have a problem with the gifted.
Yeah.
The gift will attract you to the individual. But then when you get exposed to the character of the individual, it's a total, different story.
Yeah.
And that's why, relationships must be categorized and must be given time to grow. Because yes, we love him for the miracles. Yes, we love the fact that he knows how to multiply bread. Yes, he can change water into wine.
Yeah.
Yes, he can do all of that. But will I be able to handle his Gethsemane experience
Jesus.
when he is now in the garden and he cannot handle the agony he's faced with? He's wrestling with the divine will of God and his human will until his sweat glands cannot carry it anymore. And it's not just water that is he's sweating, it's now blood that is flowing because the sweat glands could not handle the pressure. And now he's going through medical conditions because he's going through that process where now he is challenged by the will of God and he's hanging on to his human will. What happens when you get exposed to the weakness of the gifted? When you get exposed to the humanity of the divine? Because when you're dealing with the gifted, Sivanati, you will notice that people will love your ministration.
Yeah.
But that does not mean they will love your personality.
Very true.
They will love you publicly when you're serving, but that does not mean when you're privately relaxed, they will like you. And that's why not everybody can sit at your table before you eat with anybody, because your eating place, your dining place is a place of rest. There are people who will appreciate the spiritual wrestling, but will not appreciate the human rest. I just said that. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why you cannot ever think that you are that special, that people will love you anyhow. And with you, it's going to be hallelujah anyhow. Some people, you cannot open up, and really be transparent and be human, because you might hurt people.
Jesus.
You might disappoint people. All right?
Yeah.
Now, watch this now. So, at the encounter stage of the relationship, the expectation is what? Is celebration, it's appreciation, and it's respect. When we develop a relationship, now we have had an encounter stage of the relationship.
Yeah.
The expectation of the individual that you want to go into the relationship with, what? It's appreciation, it's celebration, and it is also honor and respect.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
And then when that is consistent, then the gift out of the encounter stage of the relationship is what? It's time. And it's not too much time, it's little time. How that time is appreciated, how that time is celebrated, how that time is respected, is what opens up for the next level of the relationship.
Wow.
And it is the same thing when you're dealing with romantic relationships. You understand what I'm saying? And that's why when a man comes and proposes you cannot afford to give him all time, or all of your time. The little time you give him, the question is it appreciated? Is it celebrated? And is it respected? When your little time is not respected, when your little time is not appreciated and celebrated, it tells you what will happen as the relationship grows.
Yeah.
You hear what I'm saying? Who am I talking to? You understand what I'm saying? It's very important, guys. When a man proposes you must not give him all of your time. Give him a little time and see what he does with that time. So when that time is celebrated, appreciated, and it is respected, that little time that you are given, because the gift is little time, the expectation is celebration, appreciation, and respect. Then you can then grow into the next stage of the relationship, and the next stage of the relationship is called the acquaintance stage of the relationship. We are now acquainted. You understand? We are now acquainted. We have an acquaintance. All right? And the expectation really is consistency of pursuit, because see, somebody can follow you for about a week and be bored next week and follow somebody else. Somebody can follow you for a year, and after that, meet somebody they feel is more gifted, is more graced, and then follow that person. You understand? So sometimes it's important, even as a woman, when you get proposed, as a man, you cannot afford to be overexcited, because you might be the finest thing now, and they might meet somebody they feel is way better than you. So when a woman is proposed, oh, great, I'm glad you chose me, and you're interested in me. But then let's see how consistent you are, because some guys will call you 4 hours the whole year. But the following year, they're sick and tired of you. You now sending them please calls. Oh, God. You are now sending please calls. and you're the one making requests and all kinds of voicemail. And you asking funny questions. Why are you not calling me? Why are you not calling me? What's going on? You have changed. You're cold. The thing is, they're bored. You know what I'm saying? They're now talking to the next person. Listen, if he calls you 3 hours a day for 1 year, and now he calls you 5 minutes the next year, the rest of the minutes he's not using on you, he's using on somebody else. Oh, I just said something right there. Okay? All right. Now, at the second stage, at the acquaintance level of the relationship, there's something that happens. The gift there is access and information. You now begin to tell them a little bit about yourself. You now begin to expose a little bit about what's going on, a little bit about what you are building, a little bit about what's going on in your life, personally, ministerially, romantically, whatever. whatever it is, you expose it. So what they do with access and information is very key.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
What they do with that is very, very key, because the expectation is consistency, but the gift is access and information, because relationships are built out of access and information. You cannot give somebody at this encounter stage of the relationship access and information.
Very true.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You cannot. They have to grow into that. And how do they grow into that? Celebration, appreciation, and respect. When somebody respects you, appreciates you, and celebrates you, then they grow into the next stage of the relationship, where you give them access and information. And that access and information is looking at the consistency of pursuit. Because you know what? Let me tell you something that will shock you. You see, fathers don't pursue sons. It's sons who pursue fathers, because fathers are sons to somebody else, and sons are sons to somebody else.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about my spiritual father, for instance, I'm the one who pursues him,
Yeah.
and not the other way around.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm the one who does the calling. I'm the one checking up. And I'm not saying he's not doing it, but he's not doing it as much as I'm doing it.
Yeah.
What is it? Say it. That's him calling. And that does not, that's Apostle Tari calling. And that does not mean that I don't call him. I just call him more than he calls me.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one who is in pursuit of something. Because I want to be accountable. So accountability is my responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, the greatest joy of a father is to be called a son by their own father.
Oh.
So if I was to ever visit him and he calls me man of God, it offends me. It hurts me. Because I want to be called son.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when he calls me son, there's something in me that humbles itself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you give out so much as a father. You give out so much in that particular relationship that you need somebody to give to you. So I'm in pursuit of that.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I want to go a bit deeper. Can we go a bit deeper?
Let's go deeper.
Access and information. How it's treated. Is it treated with appreciation and all of that? At the second stage, the acquaintance stage of the relationship, we now go to the third, right?
Yeah.
The third is allegiance. So from acquaintance, we go to allegiance. Allegiance, the expectation is loyalty and fidelity. Now, we know the infidelity simply means cheating, right? Or having an affair. You understand what I'm saying? So fidelity has to do with what we call singularity. When you know somebody is really with you, no matter what.
Yeah.
They're not with 5 people, but they're really with you as an individual. It's called the test of singularity. So they are able to focus on you, and they're able to stand with you, and they're able to go through whatever with you. You know, that's the acquaintance stage of the relation. The expectation really allegiance is loyalty and fidelity and personal obligation. It's not Elijah who said to Elisha, be committed.
Yeah.
Elisha made up his mind and say, wherever Elijah is going, I'm definitely there.
Yeah.
And it was not Timothy. It was not Paul who encouraged Timothy to follow him around and to be asking about, pastoral stuff, because people think that Paul woke up in the morning and wrote 1 Timothy and 2 Timothy. No, it was the demand. It was the demand that Timothy put on apostles Paul's ministry that produced the letters. Wow. So if there were no spiritual sons who pursued fathers, we would not have Titus, would not have Philemon, we would not have Timothy.
Yeah.
1 Timothy and 2 Timothy. None of that would be there. But there was somebody who said, I really want to do this right. And therefore, how do I do this? How do I do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I find that it's very easy to teach somebody that is asking you questions than somebody who's just quiet looking at you. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. I hear you.
So you put the demand on the anointing. And when you put the demand on the anointing, there's something that flows out of that. All right. So let's go. Can we go now?
Yes.
All right. So we have allegiance. The expectation is loyalty and fidelity and personal obligation. It is Timothy who obligated himself to Paul, not the other way around. Let me tell you something. When Paul requires personal obligation, it's an error. For Paul to say, why don't you do 1, 2, 3, 1? No, it's personal. It's you who makes a decision, to get to that place, And the gift out of that relationship of allegiance is delegation and position. You don't delegate people who are not personally obligated. And at the same time, you don't position people who don't personally obligate themselves to you. You are able to say, okay, can you please go to this particular place and preach on my behalf? Can you please go and attend that business meeting for me? And it is because of the obligation that somebody put themselves in, not the one and I think that is the biblical model. The biblical model is that the mentee must be the one to say, you know what, I want to do this. And then the mentor will then say, okay, now that we want to do 1, 2, 3, let's put you here so that you can do it properly. Oh, man.
My God.
Woo! My goodness.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Okay.
I hear you.
All right. Now, after allegiance, then you have alliance. And the expectation is ministerial and personal mutuality. So at alliance, when we have an alliance, I mean, you talk about politics, you have countries that are in alliance with other countries, and they then put together, policies and governmental laws that are complementary to the two countries, and trading laws they then put together so that then there's mutual benefit to that country and that country. You understand? So you don't go into business with anybody who is not at this stage of the relationship called alliance. Because at alliance, it's about personal mutuality. So whatever is mutually beneficial to us, that is what we commit to, and that is what we are working on. You understand? So when we look at things, entrepreneurially, ministerially, romantically, I mean, I'm talking generally here. When we look at all of that, I now make decisions knowing that I'm accommodating you so that you're able to grow to this place in your life, and you're able to do this in your life. But you can't, you see, in the past, man of God, what I did is I put a program together, trained people, opened doors for people to a point where there was somebody in my congregation who won a contract for over 50 million. And guess what? I did not want any part of that money. We just helped them on how to put that whole documentation right, give them the right certification, work tireless hours to make sure that they get it right. And when they got it right, guess what? We were the ones insulted. We never called anybody to say we want to share. We are the ones who got hurt by trying to help somebody that was struggling. So I'm at the place now where I don't do that for people who have not graduated to an alliance stage of the relationship, because then there is no mutuality. We are not building mutually in a way that empowers you and that empowers me. You understand? You are an individual. In other words, you are a taker and not a giver. You are in the relationship to steal and to take, but not necessarily to give. There are people who come into your life because of what they can get out of you.
That's true.
And not because of what they know they can give. And you have to be mature enough to know that this person actually wants to exploit me. And sometimes, for issues of discernment, you can give a little bit and see how is that, treated. Are they going to give themselves more? Are they going to also open up doors for me? Or are they going to be more empowering as well? If that's not the case, you are in a very exploitive relationship, and you need to know when to move. You understand?
So it means then, before you can get into a relationship, you must be matured enough.
You must be mature enough.
You must be in a stage whereby you are able to give the need that is required in the relationship, that you may get what you need as well.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Because you cannot be in a relationship if you're not looking for anything.
Wow. Wow.
And at the same time, when you're looking for something out of a relationship, you should know what you really want to give.
Yeah.
You know? Because it would be stupidity for you to have a relationship with somebody that's not empowering.
Yeah. And then it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong for you to be told what to do.
What to do.
Yeah.
It should be a personal obligation.
Yeah.
You personally obligate yourself to give something.
Yeah.
It should not be required of you.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, man of God, prophet, and that's why I say to people, if a pastor continuously sends you financial requirements, you are in a very exploitive relation. It should be you who feels personally obligated. You know, I know obligation is quite a strong word, but what I mean is when you have made a personal agreement with yourself to do something consistently, you can encourage people to make vows and to commit themselves, but you cannot tell them what to be committed to. Because then it becomes a question of exploitation. Are you hearing what I'm saying? And that's why even in romantic relationships, you cannot afford as an alpha male to listen to a woman and say, please pay for this, pay for that, and pay for this every month, and then we can have a relationship. That's a very, it's not a healthy relationship at all. Good God Almighty, help me. At all. You know you're in trouble when a woman tells you, please pay for this bill, pay for that. It's you as an individual who says, you know what, my sister, I realize that 1, 2, 3 needs to be. I'm a man enough to know that you are paying bills, for instance. You know what I'm saying? You're paying bills, and you're using transportation, and you need this to move from point A to point B. It's your responsibility as a man. You should not be told by a woman what to do.
Very true.
All right? And that's why I say to you that there's a difference between a slay queen and a praying woman. A slaying queen and a praying woman. A praying woman will not ask you for anything. She will ask the Lord, and you might be inspired to meet her need. But a slaying queen will tell you, my brother, to say, hey, listen, I need a monthly allowance. All right, can you take care of business? I need this much this month. You know, hey, can you please increase my monthly allowance? Then you know you're in trouble. Oh, dear God, dear God, dear God. And the alpha male will not allow themselves to be positioned in the place of exploitation. You know, this is darling, if you cannot afford it, leave without it. Oh, yeah. You know? Oh, yeah. So that's an alliance. In alliance, there is personal mutuality. And now, let's go now. Can we go a bit further? So we have allegiance, right? And then we have an alliance. Now, an alliance, the expectation is ministerial and personal mutuality. And then the gift is association, personal help. And beyond ministerial help, there is personal empowerment. I'm talking in context of ministry. So the person is not just concerned about your ministry, is now concerned about you as a person. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, beyond the parameters of ministerial work, what are you doing to support your family? And what kind of financial position do you have to support your family in case anything happens as you grow in ministry? You understand what I'm saying? Because you cannot afford to depend on church members.
Very true.
Again, it's a question of relationship. Remember, it is the shepherd that feeds the flock, and not the other way around. But when you really feed the flock, there will be something in the storehouse. There will be wool, there will be milk, and there was going to be meat. You know, when Jesus talks to Peter, he says, Peter, feed my sheep. That the word feed there is bosco. Bosco literally means holistically empower my sheep.
Jesus.
When you holistically empower them, then something in them will tell them, no, this man deserves a great meat. This man deserves proper wool. This man deserves proper milk. Milk will begin to flow, wool will be plenteous, and meat will be proper. Great quality, a great quality. You see, sometimes we have issue with poor sheep and bad wool, bad milk and bad meat, but we don't have issues with what we're feeding the sheep with.
Jesus. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Oh my
see that
God.
one coming.
You see what I'm saying? That's very important. It's very, very important. Okay? The fifth stage. We are on the fifth stage, right? And we're almost closing.
Okay.
Is called the covenant stage. Now, this is the ultimacy of all relationships.
Jesus.
You want to have covenant relationships. And the truth is, they are not greater in quantity, but they are greater in quality.
Wow.
They're not necessarily plenteous, but they are powerful and impactful. Because covenant relationships, the expectation is this. All right? The expectation is this, is that there is unwavering loyalty. Unwavering loyalty. And there is unwavering agreement.
Jesus.
That is the expectation of the relationship. Because when you talk about covenant relationship, it's an agreement. Usually formal between two or three or more persons. All right, and it is not to do with something really specified. It's a holistic relationship. A relationship that says, no matter what you're going through, whether you're wrong or right, I'm standing with you.
True.
It's like a marriage. You don't go into bed with somebody you're not married to. You don't go into bed with somebody you're not covenanted to. Because the lifeline is now one. You understand what I'm saying? Now, watch this now. You see, because you are married to somebody, whether they are publicly wrong or privately wrong, they're never to be corrected publicly. You cover them at all times, whether they're wrong or not wrong. You understand? Whether they are in sin or they are not, you never, ever, ever expose such a person in public. You see, now, let's talk about this. Some years ago, the Lord talked to me about the Absalom spirit and the Laban spirit. Laban, who was the father to Rachel and the other girl, Leah. So you notice something that, you see, Jacob was supposed to work for how many years?
7 years.
7 years for Rachel.
Yes.
All right. The woman he called beautiful. The woman he was in love with. But then, because of the grace of the firstborn that was upon Jacob, things multiplied in the camp of Laban. And when he saw that even multiple streams of income was created, sheep was bearing more sheep, cows was bearing more cattle, and all of that was growing. And the grace upon Jacob was strong. He kept him longer by making him work for another 7 years, which all in all is
14 years.
14 years. What's going on here? It's exploitation. Most fathers struggle with the spirit of Laban. When you see somebody gifted, when you see somebody graced, you want to keep them longer so that they benefit your assignment and not their own house. The house of Jacob, oh God, the house of Jacob has to be established, but then it's delayed because Laban is keeping him for himself. And that is the problem that we have. You see, when you have a covenant relationship with somebody, you release them, and you release them without expectation, even though you know there is an inward expectation. You know there will be a blessing directly or indirectly. Allow people to grow outside of you. without trying to exploit what's on them. You know, people are kept longer in other people's ministries, and then their season passes them by. By the time they go independent, by the time they build their own houses, it's too late. Good God. Or they're too tired to build and establish their own houses. Oh, please, you have to hear me loud and clear. You have to hear me loud and clear. And then on the other hand, most sons, they struggle with the Absalom spirit. Because guess what? The impartation that flew from the very fibers of David is so strong in Absalom's life that he wants to dethrone his own father. Because when you carry what your father carries, you can do what your father does, if not better. Oh, please, you got to hear me loud and clear. Oh, you got to hear me. So Absalom wants to unseat David because he feels like, I'm prettier than him. My hair is even longer than him. Do you know that even women used to envy Absalom's hair? Wow. Because the boy had a proper weave on. You understand what I'm saying? The boy looked good. He was great in stature, taller than David. And remember, David was disregarded because of some of his physical features. Although he was a good-looking man, but he was a bit short. And as a result of that, you know, men looked at the outward appearance and not at the, oh God. And God looks at the heart. So, because God looks at the heart, sometimes the great heart is in the wrong body. And God will overlook the body and put the anointing on the wrong body, but the right heart. You understand? And when people come and see you, the anointing is on the wrong body. And what they can see is not the oil. What they can see is not the heart, is the body. And people will mistreat you for a bad body and later celebrate you for a great heart and a great anointing. Who am I preaching? My preacher, we talking. You understand what I'm saying? Who am I talking to? Please, you have to hear this. It's very important, guys. It's very, very important. Most sons struggle with the Absalom spirit because they see themselves in the position of their father. But here is the ambiguity. Here is the paradox. You were trained and are getting trained for the position of your father in the first place. But it is the timing. It is the timing that is a problem. You feel like, I got it already. You might as well get out of here. I got this. You come to a place where you feel like, you know what? Everything you say, I already know. Can I say it on your behalf? You know? You know? Wow. So two major spirits that are problematic. Laban's spirit, the spirit of exploitation. And the Absalom spirit, the spirit of dishonor and instant gratification. Those are two major spirits that mostly are released against relationships of fathers and sons. Wow. You know? Wow. So my prayer to you is this, man, is that you will be able to discern the kind of relationships that you have and categorize people accordingly and know what to expect out of those relationships. Communicate your expectations and make sure you are also giving the gifts that comes with those expectations. You understand? I know what I'm supposed to give and I know what I'm expecting. And that's what keeps relationships healthy. And you can have boundaries now within the parameters of these different stages. You know what I'm saying? So that you are not going to put a demand on an expectation somebody has not grown into. You know, and that's why most relationships, Prophet, fail early. Is because you're expecting, and sometimes love is is one of our greatest weakness. You love somebody so much, so you put a demand on them too early. And because they've not matured into that, they break down. And when people break down, they want to break down with you. Yes, man of God, talk to me. What do you want to say? Yes.
Like having to listen, what I've seen and then what I've learned.
Yeah.
I'll look at the relationship between Elijah and Elisha.
Yeah.
It is that God trusted Elijah with the prophetic ministry, so powerful that Elisha's ministry, it would have never succeeded if he had encountered Elijah. Because of Elijah, his man who is forceful. He's that guy who doesn't care. He say that and then that's it. So now, having to look at Elisha after Elijah has went on, and then I'm seeing Elisha, that Elisha was gentle by nature. So now, when he encountered those children and they were mocking at him, they were necessarily mocking at the body. They were not even aware about what is inside the heart, which is what he got from Elijah. So now he responded, not as Elisha, but he's responding as Elijah.
Wow.
So it is one thing that I've seen and I've learned, and then having that you have spoken that now the demand and then the expectation of the relationship. Yes, that's what attracted Elisha to Elijah. It is because of Elisha had seen there is something I don't have that this man have, and then I need to go with him. I should take time to get to understand how he functions in order for what he has, that it may be imparted to me.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. It's quite interesting you talk about that. You know, the children were also laughing at the fact that he had a patch, you know, and the patch was caused by carrying Elijah's suitcase.
Wow.
So there was signs of service.
Wow.
That was mocked by people on the outside. Now, you see, relationships must be protected. Against people on the outside. Because people will see signs of service and the sacrifices that you've probably, paid, and they're going to mock you. Because sometimes it's because they have failed to pay the similar price. So they mock you because they know if he was able to pay that price, he will get more out of that relationship than what I got or what I failed to get. You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes people will mock you because there are signs that you are really there. You know what I'm saying? And you should not see the mockery as something to destroy you, but as something to tell you that
you're in the right
so it
path.
literally means that I'm doing the right thing. You see, whether be it romantic, corporate relationships and all, there are sacrifices and there are signs that you are in certain relationships, and people are going to mock you. People are going to mock you because there is no understanding. There is no understanding. There is no some sort of insight or perception of where you are. The mockery is a compliment, my darling. Please hear me loud and clear, fellas. It is a compliment. You know what I'm saying? Because every relationship is a sacrifice. Do you know there are people that I had relationship with? I know so much about them. But because I know they elevated me for me to get that access and that information, you will not know nothing. It's for me to die with. You know, nowadays, people do this quite often in ministry. Now that you know something about a particular man who is prominent, you want to now go to social media and talk about that man so that you can draw a crowd to yourself. I am not, a figure of a man. I'm a man with substance. I'm not going to use another man's name to build my own name. And that is the error with many people today who are doing what we call this whole exposing kind of ministries. They are trying to call a crowd to their name with no substance, but other people's stories. You know what I'm saying? Why talk about another man's downfall? Why talk about another man's weakness? Why talk about somebody's wickedness? Why don't you talk about Jesus? And if you are really in so see, the Bible says that wherever his name will be lifted up, he will draw all men. Now we are lifting up wicked man's name. We're talking about people's weaknesses. That's what we are lifting up to draw people out. Listen, when people are attracted to you because of your bitterness, they will soon be bitter with you.
Yeah, that's true. It comes back to what you were saying when you were talking about the sheep, that we don't focus, we don't look at what we give, what the sheep eat. And then we have a problem with the meat, we have a problem
with the wool and the milk. And
then we don't necessarily question what are we feeding.
What we feeding the sheep.
Wow.
That's powerful.
Wow.
Oh man, we can go on and on. This is ManCave. I think we need to do part 2 very soon. I'll see what we can do about part 2. It's going to be incredible.
Wow.
We're talking about relationships, and this is part 1 of discerning relationships here at ManCave. It's a man's world. See you next time.